Alright guys, so I just finished The Last of Us Part 2, and let me just say, absolutely incredible, 10 out of 10, and it's probably one of my favorite games of all time now, better than the first one in my opinion, but anyway. In case you don't know, The Last of Us Part 2 is a revenge story, and everyone in this game goes to great lengths to get their revenge. Zach, I get it, you like video games, shut up about them, but it's relevant because today we are reading from r/BlackholeRevenge. Whew. Alright, first story up is called Waste of Life Mother Executed by Angry Mob After Doing Unspeakable Acts to Her Children. Got removed from entitled parents and people said I should post it here, so here we go. Alright everyone, this is a story passed down through the generations from my family. So while the title may seem rather extreme, this all happened a very long time ago. I was debating if this would fit here or somewhere else, though it should be fine here. It goes without saying, this did not happen to me, but rather my great-grandfather back when he was a child, living in a semi-small town in Louisiana. Please keep in mind that the people in the town were very much so racist, given the time and area, though they hated the mother far more than her child. The main characters in this story are as follows. Great-great-grandfather, great-great-grandfather's father, or great-great-great-grandfather, demon mother, Adam, the victim, demon mother's other son, and then sheriff. Be warned, I am not going to spare any of the graphic details. I will be telling this story exactly as I have heard it. Keep in mind, this is all word of mouth. I personally have not been able to confirm this story, but my family insists that this has happened. Our story takes place in the 1880s in a very small town in eastern Louisiana. Great-great-grandfather, hold up, I'm gonna call him Gigi from now on because that's too much. Gigi and his family had moved from their native country of Spain to the Americas to flee inter-family conflict and had decided to settle with some other relatives. Within this small town, there was just a few families that had established themselves there, one of which had been Demon Mother and her 2 children. Demon Mother had, at one point in her life, been a member of an extremely prominent family in New Orleans, the woman actually being related to another famous murderer from the city, though distantly. From what Gigi's family had been told, Demon Mother was a smart, though arrogant woman that had possessed an immeasurable amount of wealth, though lost it after her family disowned her for conceiving a child through adultery in her marriage. She had been married to a prominent doctor in the city, of which they had had 1 child, Demon Mother's son, though when another child had been born, the husband had immediately called out adultery. Demon Mother's youngest son, Adam, had been born with caramel-colored skin and brown eyes, whereas both of his parents had eggshell white skin and blue eyes. After intense questioning, Demon Mother had confessed to having an affair with a local farmer, a man that had once been a slave but freed after the Civil War. Her family immediately disowned her, her fortune stripped, and Demon Mother was about to be tossed out on the streets, but her mother had given her just enough money behind the family's back to allow Demon Mother to survive far away from the city, dead to the rest of the family except for her uncle the sheriff and her mother. Demon Mother had taken her sons with her, and from Gigi's first look, it was extremely clear how horrible Adam had been treated. Adam and Gigi had gone to the same school, a small schoolhouse that also functioned as the church, with Demon Mother's other son, and on day 1, Gigi noticed Demon Mother's other son repeatedly smacking Adam on the back of the head, punching him in the gut, and tripping him in the mud while away from the teacher's eyes. When Gigi asked Adam about the mistreatment, he had simply gotten the answer, "Because I'm an N-word." Jeez. Gigi, being an immigrant and not knowing the customs of the town, had shrugged it off and returned to playing. Months passed and the mistreatment continued. Adam would show up to school with black eyes, swollen lips, bruises, etc. and no one would do anything about it as the entire matter was considered a family matter. Though, even if someone had taken the initiative to confront Demon Mother about the mistreatment, she would meet them with the typical excuses of he had gotten them while roughhousing, or he fell. One day, things changed so much that Gigi and his family had gotten involved. Though Gigi and Adam weren't good friends, they were the only two boys of age 6 at the time, so it was often that they would end up playing after school or during lunch. Demon Mother's other son did not like this one bit. Demon Mother's other son had come up to the two boys one day, and this is roughly the conversation that had taken place.
Well, I didn't know we had an Edward lover here. What's your name, Edward lover?
I don't know what that means, but I'm Gigi. You must be Adam's older brother, right?
Demon Mother's other son, leave us alone. We're trying to eat lunch.
Demon Mother's other son, I'm just gonna call him Danny. Danny had apparently thought it was a good idea to toss both boys' food on the ground at this point, deciding that he had a new plaything to bully.
Edwards and Edward lovers like you two don't deserve to eat on tables. Go eat your food out on the dirt.
It's important to note that Danny was around 12 at the time, double the age of the boys, so fighting back wasn't an option. And even if it was, it would give Adam hell at home. While Gigi started to cry over his food, Adam had already gotten on the floor, attempting to pick up a sandwich before Danny stomped on it. But rather than stomp on the sandwich, Danny had decided it would be far more brutal to punch Adam in the back of the head while he was on his knees. After punching Adam, Danny punched Gigi in the stomach before wandering off. Apparently, the fact that Danny punched Gigi in the gut was enough to piss off Gigi's dad, as the next day, Gigi's dad paid Demon Mother a visit to sort things out. When Gigi's dad met Demon Mother at her house, this was actually the first time they had seen each other, as Demon Mother was essentially an introvert at this point. Gigi's dad was met with a tattered, withered mess of a woman. Demon Mother had only been 27 or 28 at this time, but it was extremely easy to pass her off for being in her late 30s. Her hair was a ragged blonde mess, knotted and matted as one would expect. Her face wore a permanent, withered scowl of someone who had fallen from their absolute apex, doomed to fade out of their own existence like a withering weed. Her once elegant gown had become nothing more than a tattered mess used to cover her obese form. Demon Mother had never given Gigi's dad any respect, even from the beginning, the argument ensuing before the first word could be spoken.
Why did you make me get off my chair? Do you understand? I don't want gas, or are you just stupid?
Gigi's dad, trying to keep his composure. I'm sorry, ma'am, but it seems that our boys got into a little scuffle. Your boy, Danny, had punched my son and destroyed his lunch. Do you mind having a word with him?
I won't be scolding my son for beating up trash like your brat. Just go step off.
With that, Demon Mother had slammed the door. Gigi's father, feeling that it wasn't worth the effort to keep bothering this stubborn bimbo, had decided that the best course of action was simply to teach his son how to fight. Gigi's father had taught Gigi some dirty tricks to disarm Danny, though Gigi had never had to use them. The next day, something odd happened. Adam was nowhere to be seen, and then the next, and then the next. When the teacher had asked Danny where Adam was, Danny had said that he was very sick, though when she had asked what his symptoms were, Danny kept contradicting himself. One more day passed before it happened. One of the stray dogs in the neighborhood had ended up with something peculiar in his greedy maw, and after one of the townsfolk pried it from the dog's maw, it was clear that it was a human rib, one small enough to be a child's. Dots were connected immediately, though due to the sheriff being Demon Mother's uncle, the sheriff had decided that he would check on things himself. After a few hours, the sheriff reported to the townsfolk that Adam had just been buried the day prior after dying of some unknown disease, the dog having dug up the child's ribs somehow. No one bought it, though no one spoke in fear of any recoil an acquisition might have. Gigi's father, however, decided that he was going to take things into his own hands. He and 3 other men in town had broken into the demon mother's house that night, while her and her son were at the sheriff's office to discuss why she did not report the death right away. And what they found was absolutely terrifying. Warning, if you are easily grossed out, keep watching. What they found was, in fact, Adam, though it was Adam in several pieces. In the basement of the house was where he was killed. The boy had been bisected at the waist, flayed, and dismembered beyond the point of recognition, minus his caramel skin, which had been sitting on a table in piles. His ribs had been plucked from his body, his organs nowhere to be found except a clump of entrails scattered across the room. His body had been absolutely defiled. The assumption of his death was far from pleasant. 2 of the men stormed back to town to spread the news as Gigi's father returned to his family to tell his son that he would never see Adam again. Justice was swift and brutal. Just about every person in town stormed the sheriff's office, and just about every person demanded justice. The sheriff insisted that his niece be given a fair trial, while Demon Mother had broken down crying, 100 eyes sending unrelenting anger into her very soul as they outraged over the merciless crime she committed. In the middle of the chaos, Danny spoke up in a foolish attempt to protect his mother, saying that the only way that they would get their lives back was if the kid was dead and that he ruined their lives. This foolish plea fell on deaf ears, only managing to fuel the rage of the mob as they stormed the room and grabbed all 3 of those inside. Demon Mother, Danny, and the sheriff were given no mercy, the crowd grabbing all 3 and beating all 3 mercilessly, Danny losing his life somewhere in the chaos. The remaining 2 were dragged to the top of the largest building and thrown off. Though given it was only 2 floors, the crowd had continued to beat and eventually stab the 2 until the life left them. And that was it. The 3 were buried in unmarked graves somewhere in the woods, while Adam's remains were buried in the local cemetery. In all, 4 lives were destroyed over the greed of 2 people, both trying to recapture the life they once knew through the most extreme method possible, while one man who could have avoided his death protected his family in a futile last resort. Like I said in the beginning, this happened a very, very long time ago, and everyone in the story are now deceased. I never got to meet Gigi, obviously, but this story had been the collected accounts of the most tragic event that was witnessed by my family and the others in this town. If anyone manages to find any information about this story, please let me know, as I have been unable to validate the story myself, and I want to believe that my family did not make up this story as some sort of folklore. Thanks for reading, guys. Quick edit. So some of you guys have been asking about the dialogue. The person who had told this to me was my grandfather, and my grandfather, being a very crass man, liked to throw in expletives to make things interesting. That, along with the dialogue being paraphrased from dialogue that happened well over 100 years ago, is bound to create some inconsistencies. My apologies. Well, you guys wanted BlackholeRevenge. There you have BlackholeRevenge. Very, very brutal BlackholeRevenge. In fact, that BlackholeRevenge was so brutal, I need to give you guys a little levity. So here we have an Ask Reddit thread for people of Reddit. What is some wholesome stories you'd like to share? And I'm gonna read one of the comments. I'm a certified nursing assistant, and I work in a skilled nursing facility. It's half long-term care, old people in nursing home, and half rehab or skilled nursing. Last year, we had a 90-something Ukrainian gentleman admit to our facility. He spoke poor English, but good enough that we could communicate. We also had 3 employees who spoke Ukrainian. This guy survived the Holodomor. Then he survived the Holocaust. Sometime after, he moved to the US. When he first admitted, he immediately started eating in the dining room. The kitchen knew to put his tray in the cart going to the dining room. No problem. Somehow, I really quickly established a rapport with him, even though I only speak English. After several days, the guy who ran the kitchen came back from vacation, and the Ukrainian's tray didn't make it onto the cart for the dining room that first breakfast the kitchen guy was back. Kitchen Richard was a huge Richard. He'd power play us all the time to make himself feel like a big man. We'd ask for a banana for a patient, and he'd Richard around for 5 minutes before handing us the banana. He also used to put the meal tickets under the plate, so we'd have to pick up the plate to find whose tray it was. It was a massive waste of our time, and CNAs have exactly 0 extra minutes in their shifts for bullcrap. Yes, he'd been instructed to fix his crappy behavior, but he never did. So, day 1 of Kitchen Richard, the Ukrainian guy doesn't get his breakfast tray. I go to the kitchen and Kitchen Richard says, "I don't have any instructions that he's supposed to eat in the dining room." Even though somehow magically every other kitchen worker had managed to get the Ukrainian dude his tray in the dining room, they're prepping the cart for the hall the Ukrainian guy is on. So I started digging through the cart looking for his tray, which means I have to pick up all the plates to read the meal tickets. I say to Kitchen Richard, "Hey, Kitchen Richard, when you cover up the tickets like this, it really slows us down passing out the trays." "Not my problem," was his response. "Kitchen Richard, I know the administrator has asked you not to do this. Be a team member, man." "Get the heck out of my kitchen!" I go and get one of the managers, and he screams at her too. Poor old Ukrainian guy had to sit at a table for 20 minutes with no food while everyone else at that table got to eat. And the dude survived the Holodomor and the Holocaust. I, of course, apologized profusely to the Ukrainian guy. He was sweet. Later, I brought him an extra ice cream. I'd already figured out he loved ice cream. Kitchen Richard was fired that next day via text message by the administrator. I helped make the world a better place that day. A few months go by, and Ukrainian guy starts to really decline. His congestive heart failure started taking its toll. It quickly became clear he was dying. The day we sent him off to the hospital, he refused breakfast. I tried to get him to eat, but he kept shaking his head no. One of the physical therapists spoke Ukrainian, so I ran and got him, and we had a 3-way conversation with the physical therapist acting as an interpreter. The physical therapist was sitting next to the Ukrainian guy on the bed, while I was sitting across from them on a chair. The old guy kept refusing food options. Finally, I said, "Physical therapist's name, ask him if he wants ice cream." Physical therapist asked him if he wanted ice cream. Old guy says, "Sure," which is what in his language. Physical therapist repeats the question, and then the Ukrainian guy turned to me and gave me the biggest, sweetest smile I've ever gotten in my life. It was just so full of love and appreciation and kindness. And then he turned to the physical therapist and said, "Нет." That day, we sent him to the ER and died a few days after. That was my last interaction with him, and I will never forget it or him, even though he was only in my life maybe 4 months. It's been over a year at this point, and I still think about him often. I know that story was sad, and I said I'd give you wholesome. However, they go hand in hand. It's so wholesome because OP here cared so much about this person they barely even knew and barely could communicate with. They tried very, very hard to make sure this man's last days were as easy and pleasant as they possibly could be after he went through so much in his life. And that's why I found this post very wholesome, and I hope you guys agree. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell to never miss an episode.